Hey there, guys. This is Flamzeron, aka YouTube's Tasuke, and we finally got that big next Tales game reveal, and before Tales Festival. In fact, this got announced at E3 this week. In fact, I believe it was during Microsoft's um, press conference, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, we finally know what the new Tales game is going to be. The next big mothership one. Not the new mobile one or a remaster or whatever. A brand new mothership titled Tales game. And it's called Tales of Arise. It's going to be coming out for PS4, Xbox One, and Steam. I almost said Switch. I don't think it's coming to Switch, though. It's apparently being made in Unreal Engine 4. So this is going to be a pretty high-end game, so as far as I can tell. Especially going off of the trailer, which I'll get into as we continue onward. But yeah, it's not really entirely multi-platform, I would say, just because, again, no Switch. But the fact that out of the gate it's coming out on more than just one thing, I think that's pretty cool. I imagine we probably won't get that second version that comes out on whatever Sony console it is, because obviously it's coming out on PS4 anyway, and I imagine most people are going to be playing it on PS4 and Steam anyway. But yeah, it's called Tales of Arise, and they're showing us two characters. We don't know either of their names, though. The woman there kind of looks a little familiar, but we know a little bit about the story. I won't read the entire thing. I'll have a link to Abyssal Chronicles' post on it, just for the general info on it, because they also have the press release as well, and they also know that the game will have English and Japanese voiceovers, as you do, probably the same way they've been doing it, to where you pick the language, but when you start the game, when you actually start up the game on your system, you get to pick the language, so. That'll be cool. But basically, it's going to be the story involves two planets, Rena and Donna. And Rena is the one that's kind of ruling over Donna. I'm actually kind of taking a look at Abyssal Chronicles' article as I talk about this, just to kind of get the facts right. So again, I'll link that. But Rena's been. Or is it Rain? I don't remember. I'm just going to say Ren. I don't remember how the trailer went. It was in English, though, believe it or not. But Donna's been, pillaging the planet of its resources, and that's a quote. And they've been stripping the people of their dignity and freedom, also a quote. And so basically, it's one of those stories where it's these two people are we want to change our fates and destinies. We want to arise. Dun, 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 dun. And it's they use kind of that sort of from what I remember, because it's been a couple of days since the reveal came out. I'm recording this on the 11th, so the actual official day of when E3 starts, and perhaps by the time maybe by the time you guys see this, there'll be some gameplay of it. Who knows? But that being said, the trailer we got was in English. I don't even think there is no, that's not true. I think there is a Japanese trailer. I don't know if I haven't watched the Japanese version of the trailer yet, but the English one was the one I saw, and it even had an English voiceover too, and it was sort of that, what do you call it? Kind of that punch up sort of thing. It had a very sort of much grander than what it actually is kind of thing. And this game does seem to kind of be it's going for a notch higher than what the Tales series normally does. You can definitely tell that it's still an anime game. In fact, rumors about this game rather, because there was a leak, were going around. That and Elden Ring, which I'll talk about later, in a separate video, obviously. Wink, wink, nudge, hink, whatever. But when I first saw the leak about this, I was a little turned off, thinking wait, this doesn't look like Tales. This looks more like Monster Hunter or God Eater, which makes sense considering I don't think I talked about or maybe I did, but we got the new producer, Yusuke Tomizawa, who was the God Eater guy, and you can definitely tell a little bit of influences coming from there, especially when you look at the gameplay of the trailer, and that's kind of my main beef. The game looks really beautiful. and or rather, I have two main beefs. The first main beef is on the general impression of the battle system so far, um, which it seems like they're gonna maybe be going for a more seamless, maybe even a more Monster Hunter or God Eater or Code Vein or Dark Souls kind of battle system, which I really hope is not the case, just because I like ARPGs, like straight ARPGs, or fucking Kingdom Hearts and East and whatnot. I like those, but the Tales, especially since I've been playing Symphonia Chronicles and Vesperia Definitive Edition, as well as a little bit of Abyss 3DS, I'm kind of getting back into that classic Tales mode, and I kind of I honestly wouldn't be opposed if they would say like, hey, we're not doing seamless anymore for a while. I just kind of go back to the way it was. Like, one thing I've been saying on any outlet that I can. I don't know if y'all read the AC Weighs In articles on Abyssal Chronicles, but I'm pretty sure in both articles where we were asked about what we wanted to see in the next Tales game. I'm pretty sure I always said, combat-wise, go back to basics, because that's kind of what I want to see. Because I liked Zestiria, and I liked Berseria, but I kind of like my classic Tales. Like, even if it goes back to, like, Exilia was fine. It doesn't have to be straight up, like, where you have, like, a 3-hit combo, and then you can maybe get a 4 or 5-hit combo, and you have TP. Like, if it's like Exilia to where it's like an action counter, and maybe throw in some TP as well, that'd be fine. And based on the trailer, it almost kind of looks like they're going for a more just like straight up action RPG, Dragon's Dogma, God, whatever, kind of battle system. Which, I mean, that would be a pretty tight control game, so the strategy would still be there. Not that like Tales is super strategic, but there is some strategic elements there, obviously, and so having sort of like a Dark Souls or a Monster Hunter or a God Eater battle system, I think would be fine. But I don't want the series to turn into like one of those open world action RPGs just with an anime skin on it. So I'm really hoping that they kind of keep their formula a little bit. That's one thing I've always liked about the Tales series. As much as they've changed, they've kept the general formula, and like everything else has just been aesthetic stuff. And so that's one of my main concerns. Again, I think that might dissipate should we see gameplay footage whenever that is. I imagine we'll probably see a little bit more at Tales Festival, which will be happening this weekend. So I think I was almost kind of wondering about that when the leak happened. Like, that actually kind of might work out in their favor if they go ahead and reveal it at E3 and then build up the hype and then show us like the finer details at Tales Festival. I believe there's supposed to be a secret guest, so I imagine that secret guest will be the lead actor of the guy, which obviously they haven't revealed his name yet, but I feel like he to me he looks like either a Zane or an Xavier. I feel like he could be one of those two, or maybe Shane. Though my other beef, which I'll go into, which would kind of alter things a little bit, would be that the trailer and what people are saying about the trailer seem to imply that this might be another game in the Zestiria Berseria timeline. And the main thing I noticed from that was that the guy was pulling out a sword out of the chick, and it was like a fire sword, so like, oh, that's like Lila's thing. And that was making me a little concerned. That being said, the chick uses like that little gun thing, and I feel like if Lila, I don't think Lila would have any need to change her weapon. It's like I'd be thinking like, well, fucking, Leon and Judas in the original games, they used different weapons. A, they didn't think that far ahead, and B, in the Destiny remake, they did give him the two swords. And Plus, I feel like in Destiny 2, like it always seemed like, the main, as far as the main story was concerned, Judas was using just a regular rapier. He wasn't using like his little dagger thing. And that might have been just like um, a consideration. But who knows? And of course he played fine, and Leon played fine as well in both games. But yeah, that's kind of my other concern, because I liked Zestiria and Berseria and all, but I want something new. Like, I don't want to keep just treading over the same worlds over and over again. I feel like, that's just going to get tiring. Like, I don't know if I necessarily want a Symphonia 3, for that matter. Or Symphonia 4, depending on how you look at it. Or a Destiny 3, or a Abyss 2, or a Vesperia 2. Like, I think maybe just like making a whole new game would be fine. Yeah, that's my opinion. But and for all we know, maybe it's just like they're just using like a similar concept or something. It would be kind of interesting to kind of see the lore. I feel like this would kind of like do some stuff with the lore, but of Zestiria, that is. That being said, I really do hope they maybe, like, I don't know, like, is the Tales series just going to become like the Tales of Zestiria series? Like, are they going to rename it to Zestiria Chronicles, and then like for every it's going to be Zestiria Chronicles, and then Berseria will be Zestiria Chronicles 2, and then this one will be Zestiria Chronicles 3. And it's like, man, can we just stick to the Tales of series? I don't know. Like, this is all speculation for the time being, and we'll know a little bit more when Tales Festival comes around. I do want to see some gameplay though, like some actual, like, not made for a trailer gameplay. Like, I was like, well, there's technically gameplay. Yes, I know there's technically gameplay, but that's not what I want to see. I want to see, like, same with Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, though thankfully that got, that's another, I guess, thing I got to talk about later on. But I wanted this to be the first one because, I feel like the Tales series, as far as video games are concerned, the Tales series is my favorite video game series, like, bar none. Like, in terms of favorite franchise, yeah, Tales and Dragon Ball are kind of fighting each other, and I'm perfectly prepared to become just a straight Dragon Ball guy if Tales ever goes kaput, which I hope doesn't happen. I do feel like, depending on how this goes, it might alter the series. I definitely don't want to quit the series, because it'd be one thing if, like, they really, like, change up the gameplay a lot to be more actiony, which is kind of weird coming from me considering I'm an ARPG kind of guy anyway. But like, if the story is still as good as a regular Tales game, then I could get behind it. And you might be thinking, like, again, to kind of, I guess I should probably explain that point, because I think some people might be, especially if you listen to the podcast and you hear me talk about Neo 2 and how I kind of like that more than Neo. I found that, like, if a video game series has already established itself as something, but then, like, they try to kind of be more like another game, whether or not I like it or not, I'm not too big on that depending on the game. Like with Neo, how, like, when that got first announced, there was no word on that being like a Dark Souls clone. And then, like, when they brought it back, Dark Souls clone. But then at the same time, if you make some changes to kind of make the transition into the new gameplay style more like it's its own thing, kind of like with Neo 2 being able to make your own character. Believe it or not, something like that can actually make a difference. That can kind of make a difference to me pretty heavily. For here, I don't know if that would be necessarily because then I feel like, well, if the Tales series is going to become like a open world anime Dark Souls-esque like game with difficulty or not, well then, like, what happens to Code Vein? Isn't Code Vein supposed to be your anime Souls kind of game? Because that one is definitely sort of like them being like, hey, we want to make an anime Dark Souls game. Whereas I guess maybe here would be like if they wanted to make The Witcher. I don't fucking know. Who knows? for all we know, it could just be like a really high-end, nice-looking Tales game, which that'd be fine with, as long as they maintain the anime look, and the battle system as closely as they can, which they do note in the press release. I'll bring it up here. Let's see, where is it? Or there was a... Here we go. A new tale with dynamic action RPG featuring an updated battle system that retains classic Tales of gameplay. That's part of the press release. Which I if they go that way, then that's fine with, or rather, like if they're kind of like mixing where like it feels like a regular Tales game but it has like some extra additions, that'll be fine. I'm just being kind of cautious. I already feel like the E series is sort of like slowly becoming like, or not slowly becoming, is becoming my second favorite JRPG because of what it offers. There wasn't really anything competing with it. I mean, when it comes to RPGs, I'm generally pretty loose. I'm picky but loose, I guess, because I play a lot of. Once I find a certain genre in RPG that I like, I tend to play it a lot. Like there was a time where I was playing a lot of Western RPGs, because Champions of Norath just tickled my fancy, and then Oblivion was all like, "Hey, let me open up your anus and put in this dildo." It's like, oh, if I can talk about that kind of allegory or metaphor, it's a metaphor. But yeah, so. I'm cautiously excited about this game. I'm definitely glad that we finally know about it. It's going to be coming out in 2020, so like they just said 2020 as well. So like for all we know, it could be like summer 2020. I doubt it though. I'm guessing probably near the end of the first quarter of 2020. Who knows? It really depends. So. I'm looking forward to it though. I want to see kind of what it's all about. Though again, like as long as they keep the battle system Tales-esque, like if it plays like Berseria but refined, then okay, fine. If it plays like Zestiria but refined, fine. If it plays like Graces but refined, fine. You know, it's like if they go back to basics, that's fine. If they go back to Tales of Fantasia on the Super Nintendo, I'll be like, well. You know, Star Ocean's right over there, guys. If they go to Eternia, I'd be like, well, that's cool and all, but that's kind of dated. As fun as it is. But, yeah. And that if they kind of, if it's a whole new story, which I think there's a chance it might be just because the chick, honestly, when you look at her, she doesn't really look like Lila that much. Unless it's like, maybe it's when she's younger. And I'm just like, isn't she kind of like ageless? Doesn't she just kind of like, doesn't she just grow older but doesn't really look that different? Like, unless like she gets a spell put on where she's all like, I can't age no more. And again, I feel like, her having like a little rifle thing. Though looking at her, like, yeah, it's like, I don't know. Once we know her name, I bet that'll probably spell things out, unless they're going to be all like, I'm changing my name to a human name, and that human name is Lila. And it's like, oh my fucking god. Actually, thinking about with the whole, wait a minute. Oh, I just realized, like, because I know, like, he says the divine, the narrator says the divine, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that's what people called, called the Seraphim and Zestiria the divine, but like I didn't put it together like, oh, that was just a fan term. Like, oh, so, and if that's the case, I don't know. What if this is actually a sequel to Eternia? Bro, that'd be something. What if it turns out this blonde chick is actually like a really old Chazelle, and it turns out, hey, Merity. Ooh, interesting. I'm starting to think about things a little bit. Who knows? But I'm cautious about it. Again, I want to see some like more gameplay. I kind of want to see how things kind of work out. These early trailers are usually kind of tough to judge because like they always show combat, but they don't like show like any HUD or anything, or like too much like it's really cinematic, so like it can be really misleading. I remember the Grace's trailer was like that, and because of that, I didn't put together that like no, that little like angle that they have the camera is actually how the cameras are going to be. I actually played a little bit of Grace's earlier, just kind of looking at the skits. Yeah, I'm in like a weird like Ninja Turtles, Saint Seiya, and Tails mood. Those are the three things I'm into right now at the moment. And Oblivion, because I've been playing that on PC a lot. But yeah, obviously I'll keep you guys updated on like the big things. Obviously, if you want to know like what I think on like the smaller things, definitely listen to the podcast because we'll be covering every little detail about this game as it comes out. Mainly characters and like battle system and like system stuff. Like I'm not gonna cover like, oh, main character, it turns out he has two penises on his shoulder that you can't see, but if you use a cheat code when you buy the first press edition at Lawson, it comes with a secret cheat code that you have to read the inside spine of the case to see. But if it's like, oh, a new character was announced, or oh, it turns out that the main character is actually, a watermelon, and the reason why he has white hair is because he hasn't ripened yet, but his Armatus form or whatever, he'll get a watermelon. His hair will turn to like a watermelon. I'm not too crazy about watermelon. I know it's summertime, but I'm not a big watermelon guy. I'm definitely more of a peach, stone fruit guy when it comes to summer fruits, if you could even count peach as a summer fruit. Of course, I'm also in Georgia, so I'm a peach guy by default, though if you were to ask anyone else, they would say my favorite fruit is strawberry, and that is 100% true. Ichigo daisuki. That means I love strawberries in Japanese. Anyways, I'm going slightly crazy just thinking about all these different little things. This is already a much longer video than I normally would have it, though. Of course, if you know me, you know I love Tales, and I love talking about Tales. So, yeah. Seems interesting. I hope we'll get to see more. Probably during the actual, like, if not during, like, all the public days of E3, which I'm pretty sure starts today as this is going out. So I bet there'll be millions of comments being all like, hey, they released a trailer basically retconning everything that you just said. And I'll be like, okay, cool. But if not then probably at Tales Festival. Mr. Tomizawa will be all like, hey, look at this cool Tales game that I made. He apparently started a developer blog, which will be interesting, because I know one of the things he wants to kind of look at is like, well, what parts of the series need to be changed and what parts of the series don't need to be changed. And that's kind of something that I'm sort of like, well, I'm kind of conflicted on that, because depending on how you look at it, that can be a good or a bad thing. But I'm going kind of rambling at this point. I wanted to make sure I had this video up by at least today. I'm uploading it obviously like early morning and doing a scheduled thing, so you won't see it until when it goes up. So not that you care, but it's 5 in the morning as I'm recording this, but this will be going up at like 1:30 p.m. I like to do that. 1:30 is like my that's my good upload time, I guess. I don't really have any statistics to back that up, but yeah, so I'll have a link in the description to both the podcast if you want to hear sort of like a group discussion, and if you want to keep up with our coverage of this, and also the Abyssal Chronicles article if you want to kind of read more up about it. So yeah, alrighty. Here's hoping this brings the Tales series to a good spot. Otherwise, I'll be very sad, and I'll have to become an East Dragon Ball boy. With Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, I can be swayed. But yeah, this is Flamzeron, aka YouTube's Tasuke, signing out. See you later.